My mom would talk about soul walking when she was alive and in her journals in this light at like every part of my room. And the room was bigger with the angel in it because it was such a force. Spirits moved on now, the tree spirit, but it hung out for a little bit.
In this episode, you'll learn how to protect yourself in the physical as well as the astral, ways to astral project, and things that you could see in the astral, like trees, angels, and even past loved ones. Today, I have the privilege of talking with Victoria, as well as someone who can astral project. Victoria has been in the military. She is a teacher. She has her own YouTube channel and is a mother of two. I met Victoria through YouTube. One of her videos just randomly popped up on my feed. So I figured I would shoot her an email and ask her if she astral projects, and if so, if she would like to come on my channel and be interviewed. Luckily, she said yes. So I'm really happy that she is here with us, talking with us today. All right, cool. Victoria, it's so good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So let's dive in. Let's talk about some astral projection. What do you say? So, Victoria, when was your first astral projection?
I started astral projecting basically since I can remember. So my youngest childhood memories are coming out of my body. When I was young, they'd always come with, like, if I had a fever, when I was little, and that kind of followed through until I'd say about puberty, and then they kind of went away. But I always had I could always sense spirit. I always knew when there were like ghosts around, or if I was like in a haunted house. There's a couple times where um, I grew up for about 5 years of my life in a house that was haunted, and I had lots of experiences there where I heard and saw things. Um, and then that progressed into adulthood. My astral progression was, mm, it was more of the sleep paralysis. And I feel like a lot of it was induced by trauma, the trauma that I had as a young adult. And it's almost like I understand this more now. At the time, I did not understand what was going on. But when your aura is messed with, right? Your aura protects you. And I feel like as children, we have a protect, like we're born with it. And of course, our parents can keep that aura bright and protected, or, trauma can affect it. Depression can affect it. It kind of creates tears and holes in your aura. And then spirits are allowed to kind of attach to you and follow you around. And they feed off of you. They feed off of that fear. They like the attention. But bottom line, with all maleficent spirits or wandering spirits or house ghosts, whatever it is, they are, they're not as strong as you. And I think that's something I really want people to understand who are experiencing sleep paralysis or trying to astral project. Um, they are not as powerful as you. And we are all capable of getting rid of them, walking in astral and not being bothered by them. And I'd like to talk a little bit about how to protect yourself in this interview as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Let's talk about how to protect yourself before we move on to the cooler things in astral.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
So luckily I had a spiritual mentor in my life. He was a Christian spiritual mentor, but he studied the mystics. So he didn't always know how to help me, but he was able to tell me, go read this book. I know about this person. One of those people was Robert Monroe. So
Hey, really quick, Victoria, the mystics technically are what exactly? The mystics.
Oh, so esoteric people who have walked this earth.
Okay.
So yeah, people who talk about the afterlife, throughout history. There's been lots of a lot of the saints were mystics. A lot of people consider Jesus and Buddha a mystic. So people that just walked with an awakening before, now where these things are a lot more available to human beings, to the souls here on Earth.
Cool. Gotcha.
So I read through Robert Monroe's books and thank God, because I didn't have a whole lot of direction. My mom would talk about soul walking when she was alive and in her journals. And when I was little and I would tell her about experiences I had in astral when I was again, it was when I had a fever. She luckily knew enough to know that it was something spiritual happening to me, as opposed to if I talked to my dad about it, he was more logical minded. He would just say it was a daydream or hallucination or something like that. So I did have good influences, but it wasn't until I started going into astral and experiencing darker entities that I really learned how to protect myself. So one of those things I would say the best thing you can do is working with your heart chakra and expanding light in this space. I do a lot of heart chakra stuff. Now on my YouTube, I've been a spiritual teacher and mentor for years now, but I'm just now starting to do it on the internet. So, and I talk a lot about this, is expanding this light from within in your heart space. And when we first start working with light, it is difficult. First of all, because you have to convince yourself that you are capable of it. And I remember the first time I tried using light in astral, it was like a string of lights. Because in astral, it's whatever you're thinking of forms. So it was this dinky little string of lights in front of me with these orange bulbs. And that's what I came up with. And they were very pathetic. They didn't do a whole lot of protection, but the more you try these things, the more you practice them in meditation before you go into astral, you can really grow that strength. And the more you do them, the more you realize you're capable of them, the more you're able to do them, and the stronger you're able to do it.
So that practice in the physical, meditating as if you were astral projecting, well, you're kind of imagining all of that in your third eye, right? And then that will translate to you having the capability or a better capability of doing it in astral?
It's kind of it's like practice. So, I mean, when you're doing a new sport, you practice before you go on the court against another team, right? So, so that's what meditation is for astral projectors. When you get really into it, practicing in meditation when you're in your space and it's just you and you're safe and comfortable. And then when you get into astral, it's, it can be like muscle memory, we say in the Marine Corps. Of course, this is like soul memory. I used to be Marine. So when we're training through boot camp and our MOS school and, before you go to deployment, you train. And they have you do repeat the same thing over and over and over and over again. Like the same way of how to do a block or a stab or whatever it is. And then you, when you're in the situation with the enemy, in this case, you know exactly what to do. You don't even have to think about it because your muscles just do it. You just react. So this carries through for meditation and astral. So in meditation, you practice. In astral, you actually do it. And the way to protect yourself is with light. So imagining this orb growing out of your chest and surrounding you until it's like a bubble. And you can expand this bubble as large as you want. I expand it every night to, around my home. And I do extra bubbles around my children. I do some other cool stuff, but the basics are light and getting kind of like a force field around you. And if you're traveling somewhere, Blue light is blue light's really protective. White light's really protective. Using with transportation, I've just found blue light to be the best. So anytime you want to like hop somewhere in astral, just imagine yourself with like a blue kind of force field around you, and that'll protect you as you travel.
Very cool. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's amazing. Are there any other strategies or like tactics for
Before
defending
I
yourself that you
was
can think of?
learning, I'm trying to see if I have it on my desk. Before I learned how to use light, there were some things that I did because I couldn't, before I had a lot of direction, before I discovered Robert Monroe, I would come out of my body. They were all spontaneous. I wasn't trying to come out of my body. And I wouldn't know how to get back to my body. So there was a couple times where an entity was coming and I didn't know what else to do. In this particular case, I was in my room. I was just floating around and I like came to and I was like, oh, shoot, I'm out of my body again. And I heard footsteps walking down my hall, and I knew it was a spirit. And they were like loud and obnoxious, and I could just tell it wasn't like a cool spirit, and I didn't know how to like protect myself fully at that point. So I was just trying to get back into my body to protect my spirit. And how I did that is I flew up and I went face first, like third eye first into my salt lamp. And it was just my intuition told me to do that in that moment, and I did it. And I was like, bam, right back into my body. And if you think about it, like salt is really grounding, salt is really protective. So it brought me back to my body instantly. So if you are if you're having a lot of sleep paralysis and you're working with light and you're trying to figure it out, I would suggest sleeping next to a salt lamp because that protected me in those beginning stages. And I think it can also help out a lot of people. Another thing that I used, and this was just intuition at the last minute. I didn't. I had a piece of obsidian on my bedstand, and an entity came in. This was it was just a really creepy dead guy that is the father of somebody I was staying with, and he showed up on my bed one night, and I was like, oh, how do I get rid of him? And it was just intuition. I grabbed the obsidian. This is my soul. I came out of my body. If I'm sleeping and there's a spirit around, I come out of my body. I think it's kind of a way of self-preservation a little bit. I'm not really sure, but that's how I astral project, is if there's a spirit around. There's other ways I do too, but that's one of the main ways. So I grabbed this obsidian, and there are certain things in astral, in the real world, that you can hold on to. It's almost like they have spirits themselves. They have.
Wow.
So this piece of obsidian I could grab in astral, and it was like it was in my hand physically. And I just stabbed it into into his third eye, and he disappeared. Or
Wow.
I don't know, to the center of his forehead.
Yeah.
So there's been some things in the physical world that have helped me protect myself in astral. And after I got rid of that one spirit with obsidian, I started carrying obsidian around with me every time I went into astral. It was like my little pocket knife, basically.
Yeah. That's amazing. So wait, that's so interesting. I didn't realize what you said about the obsidian and having a spirit self. Essentially, that's there that you can actually.
Yeah, I don't really understand it, but I'm able to grab certain objects. I'm able to hold on to certain things as if I'm holding on to their spirit.
Are they all related to the rock family, or what else? Like salt, maybe trees. A salt lamp or something? Trees? Interesting.
Trees. In astral, if I'm wandering my property or something, I see the trees. I don't see them as I see them in the physical world. I see their souls, which it's really cool. And I've had a conversation with one tree. I've tried to talk to others, but
one tree on your property you had a conversation with?
Huh?
What, it was on your property, the one that you talked to?
Yeah, it was actually really sad because I had to cut the tree down. It was a big oak tree. But we had to cut it down because we were having a squirrel issue, and they were using the tree to get into my attic, and we had to change out my whole attic, and it was a mess. But I had to cut down this tree, and it was really sad. I felt terrible. I didn't love this decision because the tree was perfectly healthy. It was strong, it was huge, so it had been there for a long time. But we were having a real issue with rodents. So I kind of, yeah, and I feel bad to this day, and I regret it. And one night after cutting this tree down, I was in Astral, like just outside of my front yard, and it's like it was calling me, and I knew exactly where to go. And I went to it, and it looked very different in Astral. It didn't look like an oak. It kind of came out, and then it like forked out, like flat. Excuse me. And it was like a bright orange color, and it just was like it was just bummed.
This is after you cut
And
it. This is after you cut it.
yeah, this is after I
Yeah.
cut it. And
Yeah.
I was like, you know, I don't even really remember all the words. It was kind of an exchange of energy where I was just very sorry, and I just sat with it and gave it space. And then it pointed out one of my neighbors, and it was like, we wish you guys would all be like her. And the neighbor that pointed out, she has a beautiful garden. Like her whole yard is just this lush garden. She has all kinds of like, indigenous plants, and she takes care of the bees, and she just, I mean, she has green thumb, and she really takes care of the plant life in her yard. And so I just, it was a lesson,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Just a lesson. That's what
it
we
was a
all do.
lesson.
We all do things that we regret throughout life, but the
Yeah.
important thing is, you've heard this a million times. I don't even have to say it, but the important thing is that we see it and you call it out, and then you do something differently in the
Yes,
future.
exactly.
So that's awesome.
Um,
That's so
yeah,
cool.
and the spirits moved on now, the tree spirit, but it hung out for a little bit. And after that happened, I was very curious, and I really got into like, you know, trees and spirits. And now I give them space before, like, I'll sit with them. And I think a lot of people who want to communicate with like trees, we just sit there and we just start talking, right? Because that's what humans do. We like to talk. I'm a talker, obviously. And but I think what trees actually want us to do is to not talk and listen to them. It's like a little kid going up to um, someone in their 80s, and just like yap 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 yap. They're just, they just want to talk and talk and talk. And it's like, if that kid would just stop, or not even kid, young adult, if you could just stop and listen and get wisdom and guidance from this being that's been here longer than you.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fascinating. Oh, I had no idea. Well, that opened up a whole new world of perspective on trees for me. Like I'll feel like I recognize when I'm like tearing the like, I made a space for a dog yard, and there were trees in there and stuff like that, and I had to chop them down, and
Yeah.
like, I'm like, okay, this sucks, sorry guys, but
Yeah.
I don't feel it the way I should, like,
Mhm.
and I if I had that experience, well, I mean, now I'm gonna feel it more, but if I had that experience like you, it would make me way more conscious of that, and just
Yeah.
more, you know what I'm saying? So like,
Right.
that's really helpful. I appreciate you sharing that for
And if
sure.
you do have to cut down a tree or cut a limb off of it or something like that, um, let it know, and give it some time. And trees, time is really slow for trees because they can be in existence for you know typically over 100 years. Some of the older ones in the redwood forest over thousands of years. So time is very slow for them, and it's not the same. So give them time. Like, let them know what you have to do for your land for whatever reason, and then give them time to like say goodbye, move on, decide if they want to go into another little seedling. I don't know what they do, but
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
give them a heads up.
Yeah. All right. Good to know. That's cool. Wow. How did we get here to these trees? How did, how did we get here to these trees? They just came out of nowhere, huh? Well, you said, I think we were talking about you and your, it must have been,
Protection.
yeah, protection. That's right. And then I don't know,
So
just something. What's that?
after my early adulthood, it was, it was a lot of trying to figure out how to protect myself. It was a lot of sleep paralysis and fighting off, wandering spirits. And then I had a spiritual awakening that started in 2018. And my spiritual awakening was, I had no idea. I was losing my Christian faith, because things I was experiencing in astral, it just didn't make sense. I was like, saying the Lord's, um, uh, what's it called? I can't even think of it.
You were saying the Lord's Prayer, did you say?
Yeah. Okay. So the Lord's Prayer, I was
Oh,
calling out to Jesus. I was trying all these things that, you are told to do in Christianity to protect yourself, and none of those
yeah.
things were working.
Oh, is
And
that
I'm not
right?
saying that they can't work for
Yeah.
people, but they weren't working for me. So,
Interesting.
so I was trying other things, and those other things were working very well. And then in 2018, I had this really awful experience with the spirit, and it was really like it was attached to me. And at the time, I was very depressed, and I was an alcoholic. And spirits love that. They love depression. They love fear. They love addicts. That's not to say that you can't drink or enjoy something every now and then. But if you're living in your addiction, there's more than likely a spirit attached to you. More than likely. And they can get very territorial. If two auras are close to one another, it's like they're fighting for domination. And
But not for like a married couple, right? Or are you talking about all
yeah,
auras?
I mean, a married couple can too, if
Oh, yeah.
there's not a balance in the relationship. Yeah, for sure. For sure,
Interesting.
it can be. Or if your um, partner is an addict, that can really cause irritation and issues within your aura, and kind of cause tears. So I went to a priest to try to get rid of it, and they were like, "We can't do anything for a couple months." And I was like, "I can't live with this thing for a couple months." Like it was coming after me every night. So I I talked to a friend about it who was spiritual, and she told me about this girl who she knows who could help me, and she did some like cutting and detachment spells or something like that, and it went away, but I had to reinforce this force field around me every night. Like I kind of had to pray it away every night. um, and then I was so after this happened, I was learning how to. I'm not being very articulate now because I'm really trying to remember. It's like trying to read two books when you're talking about your real life and your astral life. It's like trying to read two books at the same time. One night, I ended up somewhere, and this was the first experience I had in astral. Again, this is 2018. So the first experience I had in astral that was like beautiful, that really woke me up to my soul, and who I am, beyond who I have known myself as on this planet as a human being. And I was in like another time, another place, and it felt like Ireland or Scotland. It felt very like Celtic origins. And I was dancing in a circle, with other women, and these women were in tunics, and there was this Celtic cross, like a stone cross in the middle, and we were like dancing around it. And then I was in this place, and I didn't remember who I was on earth. I just knew who I was here. And it was so full of joy and love, and it just felt so good where I was. It felt so natural. And then all of a sudden I came back to my body, and I like woke up, and I was like, where am I? Not where was I? Because that was clear, but I couldn't remember who I was now, currently on this planet. Like
Wow.
I was, and I felt like, it kind of felt like drunkenness a little bit when I came back to my body. And I was trying to figure out where I was. I was looking around, and I realized like, I'm not in the right time. Where am I? And then it wasn't until like I was walking around my home trying to figure it out. And it wasn't until I saw my son sleeping, and I was like, oh, right. And it's like my son grounded me back to the present day. And then I realized, and then I was like, what was that?
Wow.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this is my first experience with this. So I wanted to do all the research and figure out, like, was that a past life? Like what just happened? Because it was so real. It seemed more real than this world. So I went and I looked at stone Celtic crosses like all throughout Ireland and Scotland, and I found the one that I saw. And this is right after I did a DNA test, and I discovered that my family was from this area in Ireland, which is Donegal, Ireland. And I told my friend about it, and she's like, well, can you go? And I was like, I don't know. Can I? That's like, just take off right now. And, I had a break coming up from school, and my son was going to his dad's, and I was like, why not? So I just like got on a plane and I went, and I had all kinds of mystical experiences there. Yeah. So that was my first like really beautiful experience in astral. And from there, it just snowballed, and just all kinds of amazing stuff happened.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting. So you were saying you had that interesting like attachment with that entity, and then
Mhm.
but during that, after you tried to get help, you had that amazing astral projection experience with in the Celtic land, or I don't know, I'm not
Yeah.
doing it justice by talking about it, but you had that, and then you came back, and then that was just like insanely awakening to you.
Yeah.
That was, and then you actually went over there and you had a bunch of mystical experiences, you said, over there.
Yeah.
Well, and you mean just like like in the physical, just like
In the
meeting
physical
special
world.
people and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and
Yeah.
discoveries.
Special people, special places. I
Yeah.
mean, it just felt it was just surreal.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
like
What
stepping
a,
into a book or a movie,
yeah. What a crazy pivotal, like decisive moment in your life. Like if you had
Yeah.
to look back at the end, that's probably up there as like a top 10 moment. That'll probably be maybe even higher than that.
Yeah, for sure. It was a pretty incredible experience. And it really, it just catapulted everything that happened afterwards and has happened since. And it's just, my growth has just been more and more. I mean, growth in astral. I think everybody astral projects. The trick is to remember it. And
So
that's
what is that? Everybody astral projects. That's something I've heard that. I hear that all the time. And it's just, for some reason, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around. It's not
right.
saying that I don't believe that's true. It's
Right.
just
No, I
like,
understand.
I want to astral
Mhm.
project, right? And I tried and all that stuff. So, and then somebody tells me, well, Nick, you astral project every single night. So
Yeah.
like, and then I'm like, do I? Cause what am I don't remember any of it. So
Right.
like technically that means Nick's going out and he's
Mhm.
is this Nick here? Is this Nick's consciousness directing what Astral Nick is doing every night? Or is it more zombie like where he just goes out and he
It's
roams
more
in his
zombie-like.
backyard? So then
Yeah.
he'll just go out and roam in his backyard, and then come back into the body or something?
Whatever. I'll give you some examples of things I've seen my family do.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. That'd be
So,
great.
my older son, when he was younger, he would sleep with me. And one night I was like pulled out of my body and I sat up and I was like, what spirit's here now? And it felt like a familiar spirit. And I looked over and I was like, my son was sitting up out of his body and he was talking to me. Like he was just having a conversation with me. Like he just thought we were sitting up talking in like every day, but he was sitting up out of his body and he just did not know. So
What was he saying? Was he just saying nice things? Was he just telling you about his day?
I think it was more, I don't remember what he was saying. I don't want to say it wasn't exactly gibberish. There was like a stream of consciousness going on, but I'm not exactly sure. It was kind of like if somebody were sleepwalking, but there was like intention, I guess.
Okay.
And then
Interesting.
one time my husband, he works night shift and sometimes on his break he'll take a nap. And I fell asleep that night and early in the morning he woke me up and I just looked up at him and I don't even remember the vibrations happening with this one. It was weird. He just looked at me and he was like, hey, I'm home. And he kissed me. And then he like left the room. And I was like, why is he home so early?
But he wasn't.
Then I
He was at
went
work.
back to bed. And the next morning I'm awake and he comes home and he's like, okay, I'm home from work. And I was like, did you by any chance take a nap at work? And he said, yeah. I'm like, oh, you astral projected back home when you were napping.
Wow, that's crazy. What did he say when you told him what he did?
Well, we have an interesting relationship. He's not into spirituality whatsoever, but he's into fantasy. So he thinks it's kind of cool. It's just not part of his experience. And but he understands going into other worlds, right? Because he does it with his fantasy video games or his fantasy books. He's always like in those kinds of worlds. So we understand each other that way, but
That's crazy.
we're just getting it from different dimensions.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
And then my younger son, he was doing something really cool one night. He's 1 year old, and I came out of my body, and I was like, "Oh, Atlas is out of his body," and I was like, I went to grab it, and there was like another soul popped out of his soul, and then there was two of them, and then the soul popped out of that soul, and he was like replicating himself, and I was trying to grab all these babies because they were like on the bed, they were coming off of the bed, and I was like, it was hilarious. But yeah, he was like replicating himself in astral. So
that's great. That's hilarious. So he was like playing, it was kind of like Catch Me If You Can kind of thing.
Yeah, it was, yes, exactly. But he was like dividing himself to get away from mom, like we're playing a game.
Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome. Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. So how did we get here, Victoria?
I wrote down some things that I think people would find cool, things that I've seen in astral that are kind of more what people I think might be looking for when they go to astral.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That'd be great to talk about those if you would.
So I mentioned the trees. The sky, I think when you look up at the sky in astral, sometimes when you go outside, it's like, it might not be the same. It might be sunny outside or light outside when it's nighttime and vice versa. So that's always been a little bit different. And anytime you look up to the sky, at least in my experience, I've never seen blue. I've always seen the stars. It doesn't matter if it's like bright outside, you look up and there's stars. And a couple times I've seen what looks a little similar to the aurora lights. So there'll be like streaks of light going through the air, going through the sky. I can still see the stars, but there'll be like streaks of green or orange or blue. So that's kind of trippy. What else? Trees, and then one time I saw an angel, and this was actually before my awakening. It was in probably, what was that, 2010 or 2011, somewhere around there. And I was going through kind of a depressing point in my life. I was dealing with depression. And one night I woke up, and it was like sleep paralysis at first. And it was as far as my, my knowledge of astral projection was at that point, it was like sleep paralysis. But this was different because I was able to sit up out of my body all the way. And it was the first time I really did that. Besides when I was little and had high fevers, I was able to do it then too. But this was my first time as an adult. So I sat up out of my body, and there was like this, it was just pure energy. Like this angel was blasting this light at like every part of my room. And the room was bigger with the angel in it because it was such a force in front of me. It was like right in front of my bed. And it was like shooting this like white and pink lights. Like, I mean, it was just very vivid colors. And they were like streaking across. And there was like, it wasn't a figure. It was just like, you could tell this is where like there was the middle is where all this energy was coming. It was just blasting out of it. And I couldn't look directly on it with my, with my third eye, not my physical eyes. But it was hard to look because it was like burning my third eye. So I'd have to I was like looking off to the corner. And then I just went back to bed after that. And in the morning, I was like, what the hell was that?
Wow. Yeah. That's so interesting.
I actually met that angel in a meditation later on. And I say she because she has a feminine name, but angels, of course, don't have genders. I see it as a she. So that was a very...
What was the name? Unless you don't want to give the name, that's fine.
I can tell it. It's just... I want, when I say this, first of all, it's sacred, and I want, don't let influences of the world try to make this name out to anything more than it is. Her name was Annabella, and that's the name she gave me anyway. And yeah, it was a really powerful experience. I just say that because there's a horror film out that is Annabelle.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
I think Annabelle or something. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. And I think it's a beautiful name. So
yeah, I do too. Wow, that's so interesting. So that Annabella showed up, and what was I'm sure you had a feeling rush over you. Was it peace, intimidation, fear? Like, did you have any of those?
I was afraid. I was afraid because, for one, I'd never come out of my body like that. I'd never seen astral, not since I was a little kid. And even then I didn't really realize what was going on. So I was afraid. But then I think the next day, thinking back on it, it was like, wow, something really beautiful happened last night. So the afterthought was peaceful, and I could tell it was a beautiful experience. But of course, while it was going on, it was very frightening because I didn't know exactly what it was,
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that. Yeah. Any sleep paralysis I've ever had, which has been a long time ago, I would always be fearful when I entered it, except for this one time, which was really weird. And it was when I was at school in Boone, and I woke up in the middle of the night, in an apartment, room to myself. And I saw a light, I was in sleep paralysis, and I saw a light in the corner of the room, a bright white light. And it was peaceful. And I just looked up, for a little bit and then just went back to bed. And
That's amazing.
yeah, it was really cool. It was a special moment, and I always wonder to this day what it
Yeah.
was, who it was, what it was, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I met my wife very shortly after, and I wonder if there's a weird connect. Like in my mind, I'm making
Yeah,
stories
why
up,
not?
right? And then I was like, well, grandma, was that my grandma who was looking out
Right.
for me? And like, I don't know. I have no idea. But that was interesting. But yeah, usually sleep paralysis, I would always have fear. But it's
Right.
just interesting how, like you had fear back then and you were,
Yeah.
but then not anymore. It's not the case. So,
Yeah. Now it's more excitement for me.
yeah, yeah,
What did you feel when you saw that bright light in your room?
yeah. It was like peaceful. It was,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it sucks though, because I don't have the capability, practice, whatever to,
Hmm.
like, if I was smart, I would have explored that more. I would have had more control. I would have communicated. I would have maybe popped out of my body. But I don't know. I need to, what, Nick, practice more and,
Yeah. Yeah.
just do better. But
Practice and
you
meditation.
practice in meditation. Gotcha.
That's true. For me, anyway, it's been the trick. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have sleep paralysis still now? Do you still?
I get sleep paralysis when there's a spirit around. So anytime there's a spirit around, again, I think it's self-preservation. And my soul's like, oh, someone's here. It's kind of like if you have an intruder in your house, you want to go check it out and make sure you're
Yeah.
safe and your family's safe. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. Although I do a protection over my house every night. There's times where I forget. There's times where I'm like, I fall asleep, I'm too tired or whatever, life happens. And then it's like a wandering spirit can come in. And I feel like they have a radar for people that can, like if they can sense people or they know people that are able to give them attention, maybe. And maybe they do it to people all the time, but people don't remember. I'm not really sure. I just know I am a pretty big target for them. So again, it goes back to that protection and how to protect yourself and always staying protected and using
Yeah.
light. And I forgot to mention in my other video, there are times where I don't feel like I have the energy or I'm just not, we're not always at 100%. There's, lots of things happen in our physical life that can make our spiritual life a little bit, you know, hard. And in that case, I always call on help. And I like to call on help from angels. So if anybody's out there and doesn't feel like they're capable of that light, or if they're in like a depression, or if they're battling an addiction, you can always call on angels to help you.
That's awesome. Wow. Is it a specific angel or is it more just a general call out to benevolent
Uh,
beings of
I
angels?
think the big one that people use is Michael because
Yeah.
he's very protective and he's very willing to help humans. Not everything out there is willing to help humans. So
Wow.
it's like we know for a fact Michael is. So he's a good one to call on. Because he has a heart for humanity. Um,
Yeah.
and he's very protective.
Wow. So you know a thing or two about, like, you have an understanding about angels. You have made contact. You have, like, you just spit that fun fact that not all angels are willing to help humans.
Yeah,
Um
that's for
so
sure.
so are they, like, how do you, like, I guess there are probably so many experiences that you've had, right? How you've just learned so much about the world and
Yeah.
about beings.
And it's through experience. And I like to read. I like Robert Monroe. Robert Monroe is very like he almost does it like it's science, right? He's very scientific about it. Records everything, every little detail. And I feel like he uses kind of scientific made up names kind of. He's very almost analytical about it. And then you have DJ Conway. She wrote a lot of books. She's very esoteric about it. She's witchy about it. Maybe that's a better word. She's very spiritual about it. So it's like she talks about in a lot of her writing, she talks about like different places you can go and where you can learn, and like ancient Egypt. The place where I end up going a lot is very Celtic. There's druids. For me, wherever I'm going, it's priestess. I haven't seen a lot of priest, like more male centered spirits. They're mostly feminine. I definitely have experienced male priest in wherever my soul's from. That's kind of where I've been going back to. But for the majority of them are women. So I don't know how else to refer to them, like on a human scale, for what, our knowledge is here, except they're very druid-like and Celtic priestess, and they're full of knowledge, and they use trees as to kind of like record things. And they have temples and learning centers that you can go to in astral, and you can learn from them. You can remember more of who you are and where you've been. And very similar to the Akashic records. It might be the Akashic records. They've never said, "Oh, this is the Akashic records," but it has that same. They like I went there. I went there right before my last. I have a 1-year-old, and right before I became pregnant with him, I was there, and I was like having a discussion with a circle of women, and it was like we were talking about how it's time to bring, my son to this world, and I just came conscious at this place, like talking to these women, and people are interested in what it looked like. There's pillars. It's not really like a ceiling, a roof or anything. It's very, very huge though. I mean, it's massive, massive, massive. And there's a tree right in the middle of it. And it's a giant tree, and it kind of twists, like it spirals. And it's this dark and light gray bark. And then the top, the leaves are like red and pink. Excuse me. So the leaves are red and pink, and it's like this tree holds the records of these Celtic records. And right after that experience, I went back to my body, and before I was fully attached, like I was feeling the vibration coming back into my body, a spirit came with me, and right as I was, reattaching to my body, it like touched my womb, and this spark went through, like electricity went through her finger or whatever to my womb. And the next week I found out I was pregnant with my son.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow.
It's a really beautiful experience.
Yeah. Did you know the being that came up to you and gave you that spark of life, or however you want to call it?
She's one of my spirit guides. I don't know exactly which one it was though, because I couldn't get a visual because I was already like too attached to my body. It would have been cool to have seen her, but it's just the presence I felt though was very familiar.
Wow, that place sounds so amazing and beautiful.
Yeah.
When you went over to Ireland, did you see any place that resembled anything close to that? I mean, of course, not that you didn't find that, but like, I don't know. Do you ever intentionally try to, before you go to sleep, like, you try your best to show up there in the middle of the night or anything like that?
I have. It's all been very spontaneous. So I wish I had more control over it. I just kind of let my soul guide me, I guess, is more of what I do. The thing I try to do before I go to bed is tell myself, if I do go into astral or if I do have a lucid dream, that I need to remember it. Like I said, everybody astral projects. Just tell yourself before you go to sleep, I will remember what happens. I will remember what happens. And, just get in that habit so that your consciousness can kind of bring it with, back to your brain and download it into your memories, section. And I think that's the key, is remembering. And then coming to when you're having those experiences, because you're not always just like walking around your house. Your soul is going to these more beautiful places where you come from, and maybe learning stuff. Or I mean, there's all kinds of schools, there's all kind of like meditation places. Astral is just very unique. Every piece of it, every part of it. And I feel like, I mean, you could astral project every night for your whole life, and it's so vast. It's almost like it never ends. You can't see it all.
Yeah. Geez, that's fascinating. That is amazing. Yeah. Wow. It's interesting to me that there are actual schools in the astral where you can sit down, stand up, whatever, and learn,
Yeah,
from a
learn.
teacher and stuff like that
Hmm.
in the astral. Yeah. Rick, the guy I was telling you about that has the
Yeah,
Astral Club, YouTube. He was saying he actually, Astral Guide School. I think that's what it's called. Astral Guide School is what he went
guide
to.
school. Hmm.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Yes, guide school. Yeah,
So I guess, yeah, what they do is they go on rescue missions and rescue souls. Is it that
that's
was at least,
amazing. I
yeah, that
have
was
heard of
like
that.
his,
I don't know what he does, but yes, I have
yeah,
heard of that.
yeah.
People get. I don't know what he is talking about. What is? Yeah, what does he mean by rescue? Where's he going?
So
The
he,
belief
so
section.
the what section?
The belief section. People get stuck in their beliefs a lot when they die.
Yeah, there were multiple experiences where like they rescued a girl out of kind of like hell. It was like a hellish landscape and
Yeah,
deep down, low vibration, and she
yeah,
was like kind of like torturing herself with like these thoughts or something. And luckily
yeah.
they got her out. Kind of things like that. I guess.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's really beautiful. That's really awesome. So
yeah,
when we die
yeah,
with certain beliefs or certain obsessions, we carry that with us. So if you believe you're going to go to hell when you die, and that's your main belief at
yeah.
death, you will end up somewhere hell-like.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah. It's really awful and sad, and it seems very unfair. And there is a lot of stuff out there that's unfair, which is why it's important what you're doing, because people should know about this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So
Because
yeah,
this is how we protect,
this is how we protect. You said.
yeah, protect,
Yeah.
the souls that are here currently. Because
Yeah.
you can get stuck and lost in those beliefs.
Yeah. Man, the power of belief is so strong.
It
And if
is,
yeah, and if people knew, it could be very beneficial in a positive way for a lot of people. Absolutely.
yeah. Hmm.
Oh wow.
And
Wow.
obsessions too. So let's say somebody's addicted to porn, or alcohol in their earthly life. When they die, their spirit is still so obsessed with those things on earth, they won't leave earth. They will continue to try to get that fix as a ghost or a spirit that wanders. And that's like when I get an entity that's like trying to be physical with me or whatever, those they're wandering because they were so obsessed with it on earth that they're still trying to get it. And if they're like obsessed with a certain person, they can just go after that one person. That has happened that
Like
I've
a
seen.
like a haunting or something like that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah.
So protect
Controlling.
yourself
Well, yeah. Protect yourself.
and
Control.
and manage your thoughts. Get a hold of your thoughts, because that can really help you, especially if you're getting close to death. It's important to, well, meditate. For me, the big thing is meditation. Always.
Hey, Victoria, let me ask you. So you meditate. So when I meditate,
Mhm.
like there's multiple, like I can breathe deep, different types of breathing, whatever, hold for
Mhm.
4 seconds, release for 6 or something. I don't know. But, and
Yeah.
then like I can try not to think of anything at all. I could try to think of something specific. I could try to imagine that I'm absorbing energies from earth and giving them energies on the exhale. Like, is there a specific Like, I guess they're probably all beneficial. Are there ones that are more beneficial? Like, I don't know.
For astral projection, I'm guessing you're.
Well, not this one was more, I guess I'm kind of going off topic a little, but this one was
Yeah.
just more in general, just for benefits of meditation.
Okay. So, if you're struggling with meditation, a good place, or just trying it out, a good place to start is having an object of focus. Just it's called like, yeah. So what you put your focus on is what you want all of your mental capacity to go to. So it's really hard for us to not have any thoughts in our head. It's impossible. You have to be thinking of something. Even if you're thinking of a void or darkness, you're thinking of a void or darkness, right? So just having one thing you're thinking of. And if you have a problem visualizing with your eyes closed, then I would suggest using a candle flame or just something that you like to look at. You know, it can be anything really. And just keeping your focus on that one thing. And then in your mind, if you could just keep your focus on one thing. So I like visualization meditation because I'm just a visual person. And that I think that helps me more with lucid dreaming and, of course, astral projection. So journeys can really help, like meditation journeys where somebody's guiding you through like a green meadow or a forest, you know, or you can go to the places, some of the places I've talked about in astral, you can go to them in a meditation before you go to astral so that you can kind of prepare yourself for getting there. So yeah, does that help? And then breathing, of course, when we breath work is really, really good and really important for meditation. Breathing brings you to your body. And this is another way to get back to your body if you're having an out-of-body experience or if you're having sleep paralysis and you know that there's something like kind of evil or icky out there and you want to avoid it. Come back to your breath. Like just focus on your breath. And your breath is always what brings you back to your body. Breath is the very first thing we do as human beings. Once we are born, we breathe. And that first breath is what grounds us to earth. And we spend the next 7 years of our life trying to be grounded to earth and working on that root chakra. The root chakra is like the very first chakra that we have to work on as human beings because we come from astral, right? We come from the heavens and then we're in bodies all of a sudden. So we have to stay grounded. And I've actually noticed the more grounded I am, the more I'm able to astral project, the more I'm able to like lucid dream, especially like sleeping in basements for me. And like, yeah, when I have to go visit somebody in my family, I always sleep in their basement because that's their like spare bedroom. And the more like in the earth I am, I feel like it just kind of calms your body, settles your body. And it's easier to come out of your body to astral project or lucid dream when you are the most like most relaxed. So the more relaxed you can be, the easier it is. And I'm a yoga instructor and my focus is in yoga nidra. And I latched on to yoga nidra and I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever once I found it. Because not only did it help me with PTSD, but it helped me with astral projection and getting into sleep, a body asleep, mind awake. That's what yoga nidra means sleep. So it's the yoga of sleep. So you go through each body part and you relax each body part one at a time. And then you get into this really, 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 really deep body asleep, but your mind is still active. And if you can get your body to, you know, a restful spot, that is when you can, you know, do those traveling and journey wherever, whether you're coming out of your body or you're going deeper into your mind. Let's see, how do I say this? I think it's like you can go to astral sometimes through dreams. And it's like it puts you instantly where you want to be. And you don't have to like detach from your body and then you're in your room and then you have to go. Sometimes you can actually just go I don't really know like where you, maybe it's connecting to your pineal gland and you're just like instantly where you want to be. So I've noticed there's like two ways actually of doing it. Obviously I prefer the other way because then then I don't have to like do all the work to come out of my body, which a lot of times is spontaneous, but sometimes it's like the the feeling will start and it's like I'm trying to, and it's just not working. So then I'll go internal and try to do it that way.
Interesting. So yeah, I've heard about through lucid dreaming, you could like create a portal or something and then hop through that portal, and next thing you know, you're astral projecting. I've heard of stuff like that. Is that, were
Yeah.
you referring to lucid dreaming only, or just dreams in general, where you could?
Well,
Uh,
lucid, because you have to be aware.
yeah, yeah, okay,
But you can end up places through lucid dreams. And oftentimes it's like I'm having a dream and then I'll come, I'll be like, oh, this is a dream. I'm in a dream right now. And it's like I have a decision. I can go deeper and I can travel that way, or I can come out of my body and I can travel that way. So it's like I have a choice in that moment. Either way, I can end up at the same place.
the traveling deeper, that's something new to me that I haven't heard before.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know if other people really even talk about it. I've never heard people talk about this, but yeah, you can go deeper in your mind.
like I've heard of the mental
It's real.
plane. I've
The
heard of
what plane?
the mental plane.
Hmm.
Um, and is that kind of what you mean by deeper?
Maybe
The
it is.
the mental plane, I guess that was more, I guess from what I've heard, I don't know much about it, but it's not really, you don't see as much. I don't know. I'm kind of talking out of my butt right now. So, well, no, that I'm not. I'm trying to, I'm trying to let you know what I mean, but I just don't know
Mhm.
that much about it. But I don't know. Maybe it has anything to do with the plane. I'm not
Well,
sure.
I don't know. Maybe because you don't want to categorize it as astral projection. Maybe that's what you mean, which I don't really
Yeah.
know if we should categorize it as astral projection. But I do know that either way, if I go deeper or if I come out, I can end up in the same place that I want to go.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. I gotcha. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying.
So whatever you
Interesting.
want to call it, but I can get to that place. Like for me, I like to go where this Celtic place that I like to go to.
Yeah.
And it sucks because sometimes I can come back and I remember everything, and other times I just have like little flashes. I wish I could remember more. And it's a practice, like anything else that you do. The more you practice it, the better you become at it, and you just kind of go from there. And I got a little slowed down because if there's any moms watching this, I was not able to astral project when I was pregnant. It was like my son kept me attached to my body. And so then I could dream, I could like lucid dream, I could see spirits that way, but I could not see them coming out of my body. And I could not detach from my body. And it was almost like a break, a little bit of a break. So it was kind of nice that way. But I did have lots of dreams during that time about my son, and other spirits, like my mom would come visit me. Um, but I could not like come out of my body.
I wonder if that's a protection thing. I wonder if if you pop
Maybe,
out of
yeah,
your
maybe.
body, your
Mhm.
baby is more vulnerable. I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah, maybe. And I don't, his soul was not around until almost not exactly halfway. I would say it was around somewhere around 4 months. And then I started having all these really vivid dreams of him. It was like I could feel his presence, but I couldn't, before that, it was very unclear. I mean, I knew I was pregnant, but I wasn't sure the soul. I wasn't sure of his soul
Wow.
until that 4 months. And I had seen him in meditations before I was pregnant. There was a meditation I went into, and I go to this garden and I meet like spirit guides there. And one of my spirit guides was actually my mom. She was lifting this son up to me, and I was like, like, do you want me to have, he wants to be born through me? Is that what we're saying here? What's going on here?
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, Mom. And I was like leaving as I was like leaving this meditation.
Oh,
And
it
then
wasn't a yet. You didn't say yes. It was, I don't know, Mom.
it was kind of like I knew I had to make some decisions in my life. And because I wasn't even living with my now husband at the time, we were long distance, and I had a lot of big decisions to make. Like, was I going
Yeah.
to move across the country to be with him? I knew he was meant to be the dad, and um, so there was like big decisions, and it's like you can see and hear things or see things that and know things are there for you in Asheville, but you still have to accept them, and you still have to agree to them, and that's where our choice comes in, and our souls have a lot more choice than we think we do. It's not like there's destiny. There are like souls that are kind of attracted to you and you're attracted to them and maybe you've had other lives with them, but you still get the choice of whether they have a place in your life currently. There's a lot of free will.
Yeah. Wow. That's fascinating right there. Talk about pivotal moments. That's a very pivotal moment in your life.
Yeah.
Decide because you made a big decision. You said yes. And now
Yeah.
look, you have a beautiful family. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. It reminds me
Mhm.
of the classic parallel lives. You have so many parallel lives and whatever choice you make, and then you're on that one. And it's just
Yeah,
so
that gets
interesting.
that gets a little trippy. I've seen two parallel realities. Maybe I've seen more, but I saw two that I was for sure like, oh, that's a parallel world. And I see those through mirrors in Astral. I have a mirror in my room, and I just like when I sit up out of my body. Um, One parallel world I saw, and it was like it was me, like I was in my room, so it was very similar to this world, but I was very, I was like sick, and I was bloated, and it kind of seemed like a universe where I didn't get a hold of my addiction, and my addiction just took over. And it was not like a pretty picture. And it scared the hell out of me too, because I was like, that could easily be me, now, currently here. Um, and then I've seen another one where I was really like joyful and happy, and I could see other people behind me that I really love in my current life, and then some people I didn't really recognize, but everybody was like having a really good time. And that one was weird though, because she knew she like she like stopped. Like she was having fun and she just stopped, like dead stopped. And she just stared back at me. And she was like magical. Like she saw me like peeking in through our mirror and seeing that I was like looking at her. So she was like, and then I freaked out. I was like, back to your body. So,
Whoa, that is very interesting. So
and
that
I'm
means
like,
that,
she might be watching us now. No.
oh, is that the mirror right there?
Yeah, that was the mirror that I saw her in.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like that version of you in that life had abilities in the physical to see
Yeah, she might be a little bit
beings.
more magical. Like
Wow.
I have to be an Astral to see things, and she kind of seems like she can see things with her physical eyes. So I don't know, maybe that's something I can aspire to.
Yeah. I've heard in the future from people's accounts of astral projecting and learning that future people, there's a higher chance of any future people from the future, your interactions with them, than they
Mhm.
being able to see you.
Oh, yeah, that
And
makes
then
sense. Of course,
so
we're more awakened, we're, more
yeah,
advanced spiritually. That makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. That's interesting. Wow.
Hmm.
Wow, that's cool. Hey, during you were speaking about yoga nidra, so is there how do you keep your mind away? Because like
That is hard. It is
it's
hard, and it takes a lot
okay,
of practice.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Sometimes sometimes I'll still fall asleep.
yeah,
And I know I leave my body because I know the feeling of returning to my body. Again, you just feel very light and kind of like a little bit like you don't feel fully attached to your body yet. So it's kind of a high feeling. And so I know that I've left my body. I just when I have, and then I just don't remember. So it does take practice. And honestly, in my life, I've realized it depends on how tired I am. And like lately, I'm really tired because I have a 1-year-old. So it makes things challenging for sure. But
Yeah,
yeah, practice.
I can imagine. Is there like specific practice you can recommend for trying to keep, like as I'm going to sleep, what should I do to try to keep my mind awake?
Um, hmm.
Just tell myself over and over.
To astral project or to get other benefits from yoga nidra?
Um, I guess in my case, yeah, specifically astral projecting.
So I find the easiest way to astral project, like if I'm trying to and I don't, I'm not just waiting around for it to be spontaneous, is when I wake up in the middle of the night, like I have to go to the bathroom or something, and then I come back to sleep. That is the best time. So wake yourself up, somewhere around like 3 to 6 o'clock in the morning. And unless, of course, you wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, but, wake yourself up at least 2 hours before you normally wake up and then go back to sleep. And I mean, like, get out of bed. Don't just like wake up, roll over, and then go back to sleep. Like, get out of bed and then go back to sleep. And there's something about that state of sleep where maybe your mind is just more active that way. I'm not really sure, but that's typically when I come out of my body the most. So I would recommend that if you're trying to astral project, just because I've had the most success there. But with yoga nidra, the trick is really just practicing to stay awake. And that is just your mind. And it helps if you have a guide who continues the guided meditation. So a lot of times in yoga nidra, there's just silence for 30 minutes or whatever until the instructor brings you back. But I found when I make my own meditations, it's like if I want to stay awake, I kind of have interruptions in that 30 minutes, and that can help.
Oh, okay. Interruptions by just gentle noises or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Something that brings you back to, oh, right, I'm doing something.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Wow. Interesting. Do you so this has been great, Victoria. This has been a really nice conversation.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to hold you forever. So this is where, like, do you want to keep talking about your stories? Do you want to, because I'm sure you have 1,000 more. Me, I would
I
love.
don't need to tell all of them for sure, but I think I could talk about seeing my mom because I
Yeah.
think a lot of people want to go to Astral to see.
Oh yeah, yeah. We see that a lot
Their,
in our Facebook group, people talking about
yeah,
that.
no,
Yeah.
it was definitely a something I wanted to accomplish once I started going into Astral. So I understand the want for it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So I had been trying to contact my mom for years in Astral, and she talked to me in other ways. She, like I'd find a journal and I'd open it to, or I'd see her in meditations. That was easy, but I wanted to like actually see her soul, with my third eye in Astral. And I was like putting out this signal, like basically begging, like, please, mom, And what actually ended up happening when I was doing that is I was putting out this signal to whatever was listening. And so I would have spirits come and pretend to be my mom. And that was horrifying. That was so scary. So I don't recommend doing that. Anything you do in astral and meditation, it needs to come from a place of calm. And the calmer you are, the easier things will come. And for me, I have trouble getting into astral if I get really excited. Like, I start feeling and I want to go somewhere. I'm like, oh yes, okay, I'm coming out of my body. And then it's like the excitement gets me, like pushes me back into my body more. And I know, like I think you had mentioned a lot of people, it's fear. But both of those are kind of like anxiety, right? Like our nervous system kind of gets fired up during those things, those feelings. So the more peaceful and the more calm you can be, the more control you will have over these things. So my mom actually came to me a couple 2022 or 2021, somewhere around there. And it was in August. And ever since then, she's come to me every August. So I don't know if there's like, it's like a magical time of year for her to visit me, or maybe it's just a time of year where spirits of higher vibrations, because my mom comes in on a frequency that's very high. Oh no. Um, my battery's going to die. I'm at 5%. Okay, we'll finish that. Anyway, I was asleep and I woke up to the vibrations, and I instantly knew my mom was in the room with me. And I knew right where she was. So I looked, and she was at the front of my bed, and I looked and I saw her, and she was just standing there, and she was glowing. And as I was coming out of my body, it was like a gong. Like I could hear the frequency, the noises of coming out of my body like stopped, and this gong like helped me to come out all the way. And then I saw my mom standing there, and she was like this kind of orangish glow, yellowish orange glow. And I couldn't see her features because she's a soul, but I could tell that she was like smiling. I could tell that there was just joy. And her hair was like white and wavy. And she was wearing this blue tunic, very similar to the souls I've seen like in this Celtic place I go. So I was so overwhelmed that I was seeing my mom finally, like for the first time in astral. And I've been trying for so many years. And I got so excited that my heart, I felt my heart it felt like I was having a heart attack. And I was just like, it was like thumping so hard. It was like, and all of a sudden I was like back in my body, and I felt like I was having a heart attack, and I was like crying out to her, like, Mom, no, I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to like be with her. And
Yeah.
but anyway, I've talked to her in meditation. I've talked to her in other ways, but I haven't like sat there with her in astral and talked to her. I just had that one experience where I fully saw her, and it was just one of the most beautiful experiences. And every August, I try really hard to see her, and it hasn't fully come through like with that clarity yet. But there's definitely been ways I've talked to her where there's been more information coming to me. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. That's great.
Mhm.
That gives hope to people out there to connect with those loved ones they have that they want to, that they can do
Yeah,
it too.
yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Well, that's cool. Yeah, you're going to have a great interaction. You're going to see her, you're going to talk to her, hug her
Yeah,
in the future.
I can't wait. No, it's very hard to astral project with a baby. So, yeah, I have a lot of growing to do. I have a lot more things I want to do. I'm really excited for the future and helping people, get to those first stages as much as I can.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, those spirits that were pretending to be your mom, how did you detect that they were false, or did it just
The first one I didn't, because I was kind of new to it, and I just didn't know enough. And I was like, there's no way that was my mom. There's no way. Like, it was just kind of like, you know, kind of
it
looked like,
like it didn't feel right?
no. And I was somewhere in astral that was kind of dark. It was
Yeah.
hellish light.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like a post-apocalyptic world. And um, yeah, it was icky. It was just very icky, and I didn't feel safe in this place at all. This was like the time during when I was like carrying obsidian with me.
Oh, yeah.
I did have to use it a couple times just to get to where I thought my mom was, and it was just a creature that was pretending to be her to get my attention, I guess. And to get out of there was very difficult, but I was able to get out of there.
So you pieced it all together. You pieced it all together and
I
realized,
did,
yeah, that
yeah. I mean,
definitely
I was
wasn't my
very
mom.
disturbed for a
Yeah.
couple months.
Yeah.
Until I was like, yeah, no, I think these things can trick you. That was when I was like my baby steps, my first steps in my awakening. And then there's been other times where they've come into my home trying to pretend to be my mom, and they're really bad at disguising themselves. Some of them aren't even humans, and they try to disguise themselves as humans,
Oh.
and they'll be like patches of hair where hair doesn't belong, like on the
Oh.
eyeball or something.
Huh. That's interesting. Wow. I wanted to say I should have said this back then, but you teach yoga nidra on your, are there some videos on your channel, your YouTube channel where you
There,
teach?
uh, there is one. I'm
Okay.
just finishing editing it, but yes, I will have Yoga Nidra up on my YouTube. But for right now, I have clients that I do it to, and I just posted. I have a website where I can make meetings now to do Yoga Nidra digitally as well.
Oh,
So if
awesome.
anybody's interested, I do Yoga Nidra through the internet now. So.
Yeah, perfect.
But I really enjoy it, and I, there's all kinds of benefits you can get from it. Again, like I said, healing from PTSD was why I did it. Just getting clarity about your soul, your purpose, and then of course it can also lead to astral projection.
Wow, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love it.
that would be great to learn. I'm looking forward to that video coming out. Yeah, that would be awesome, Victoria, if I could list all of your links below in the description to your
Yeah,
website, to your YouTube
perfect.
channel, to
Mhm.
anything else that you want me to.
My YouTube channel is Meditate with Victoria, where I do kind of spiritual guidance every week. I tune into the earth. I'm kind of like an astrologer, but for the earth. And I'm very good at connecting with the earth, and it's helped me, a lot in my life. So I really wanted to give this to other people. And I do yoga nidra. I have meditations on there currently. They're shorter meditations, but I do have longer meditations that I am currently working on to upload. And then on my website, meditatewithvictoria.com, you can make an appointment with me. I have a mentorship program, and I also do individual yoga nidra, and I also have yoga nidra packages if you're interested in that.
Cool. Well, sweet, Victoria. It's been so nice talking to you. I'm so grateful that you came on. So grateful. It's been an amazing conversation. And I hope there can be like a part two or something, because the knowledge and experience is clearly very vast. And it would be great to talk to you again.
Yeah.
So
We
thank
didn't
you.
even get into the alien part. So,
Oh man, the alien.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Part two.
Oh yeah, part two. That's all it comes down to. All right.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, this has been really awesome. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope this can bring some light to others and help them on their journey as well.
Yeah. It definitely will, for sure. Whoa. Wait, how did you go into his dreams?
I don't
That
know.
was your
Sometimes I
intention?
end up in people's dreams around me, and I'll just be like, "Hey, did you dream about this? Because I know this wasn't my dream. Like I don't know about this stuff."
Yeah.
And he'll just, yeah, that sounds like me. I've jumped into both of my son's dreams too. They're exactly what I thought their dreams would be like.
Man. All right. So that's part two.
Yeah,
That's what we got to talk about with that part two.
yeah,
All right. Okay. Cool. Well, thanks, Victoria. I hope you
no
have a great
problem.
night.
All right, you too.